Gen Z, you are being called out yet again, only this time for your prudish behavior. Rebecca?
Not only are Gen Z like giant squares, but they're really, really dumb.
What?
And you identify as a millennial, correct?
I am a millennial. Okay, sometimes I'm kind of a hypocrite because I do call myself a zillennial, which Katie, who is the same age as me, she thinks it's the cringiest thing in the world, which guilty. Because I think the cutoff for Gen Z is 96, and I'm 94. So I'm either like the youngest millennial possible or like the oldest Gen Z.
Gotcha.
And I don't know which one I
you're on
want
the
to be.
cusp.
I'm on the cusp.
You're a cusper.
Rising millennial.
You have a water gun to your head here, and you got to pick a side. What's it going to be?
Ooh.
Yeah. Whose team are you choosing, dude?
Yeah, you got to pick a side. This is America.
I can't. I can't be doing the millennial pause when I'm recording a video.
You're very Gen Z coded.
I feel like I am more Gen Z, probably because I have two younger sisters who keep me so young and fresh and hip. So I feel like I'm like Gen Z, honestly.
All right, so you're calling yourself out there if you had to.
A little bit.
This is going to sting a little more then.
Hopefully they still accept me after I come for them in this break. But yeah, they're kind of dumb because
where?
we
You have to say where.
Okay,
Where?
we as a
You made a choice.
You picked a side.
the community is a little dumb because media literacy for the youth, it's dead. Like if you go on TikTok, they act like Saltburn was a documentary.
Oh my God.
Like you think that's an exaggeration, but I swear they think that actors are not acting. They think that these characters are like real choices by these actors. And I have an example that just happened really recently.
Objection. The graveyard scene was, in fact, Barry Keoghan's choice. So it was a documentary in some ways.
That is true, right? He ad-libbed that, right?
He ad-libbed it.
See, but it's like the difference between creative choices and Barry Keoghan really wanted to do that. You know what I mean? So I asked, okay, you know, in like all the sci-fi movies, there's always like hypersleep. Like an astronaut will get into a pod and there's going to be fog and then they're asleep for 7 years and they get to Mars.
Yeah, that's like the Jennifer Lawrence, Chris Pratt movie where they were on that. Yes, where they were on that, and that was great.
That was supposed to be that's like a rom-com. That was a horror movie, by the way.
Yeah, well.
Okay, anyway, I asked my sister and her friends, who is 26 and a smart person getting her PhD, if she thought hypersleep was real. 4 out of 5 of the friends said yes.
No.
They think that hypersleep is real because they've seen it in movies since they were kids.
Do you remember somebody who used to be on the show and they thought the Mars movie with Matt Damon was based on a true story?
Yes.
The Martians?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we all just kind of looked at her like, "You're joking," and she's like, "No, it was like it's adapted from a real story," and we're like,
A real story that someone made up.
"I swear to you,
Really?
yeah."
I think maybe the segment Bless Your Heart Moments was born that day.
It might have been. It might have been.
So, yes, they are dumb, but they're also dorks because the common complaint that I always see is that they think that movies nowadays are too sexy and they don't like it.
Too much adult content?
Yes, they complain all the time that they think movies are way too explicit, and they've agreed that it's gotten worse recently.
Well, there is some movies you watch where you're agreeing with this
I kind
also.
of agree with that one. I feel that one.
There are some.
Yeah.
Can you give examples?
For me, it's just like it's a lot of times I find myself saying I get it. Like you didn't have to go that far with the scene. Like we know what happens here. You could have left it at that.
Like it's gratuitous. There was a time where two people walked into a bedroom and you just saw the shot of the dress go to the floor and you kind of knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Not nowadays, man. Show us every square inch.
Exactly.
So do you guys agree? You think it's gotten worse?
I mean, I'm going to have to say no. But again, I know what I watch on a regular basis, and it doesn't involve those scenes.
It doesn't bother me. Yeah, I haven't really thought of too much.
Now, I will say what I have tapped into is, like our fairy corn books. And so I will say the books I read are more explicit, and that's a personal choice.
Yeah, no, those are a tale as old as time. That's been around forever.
Oh, dude, because my mom, when I was a kid, she had a ton of books, and they were those books that had like the Fabio on the front of them, those like lusty books or whatever.
The Harlequin romances.
Yes, Harlequin. So I know that's nothing new.
And I know this is 100% sexist, but I'm seeing way too much dude junk now in those scenes.
It's a lot.
It's
a lot.
I know.
There's a White
that's what I'm
Lotus
saying.
scene. Have you seen the episode of White Lotus where it's Patrick Schwarzenegger and it's like full front restaurant Junk?
I have not.
I missed it.
You did? And then apparently Chris Pratt, who's his brother-in-law, because he's married to Katherine Schwarzenegger, saw the scene and complimented him on it. Like, you can't do that.
What's the appropriate response? Like, you just say, hey, I saw that scene.
He did
You acted great in that.
And what do you say? Do you say it's thank you with a question?
You say thank you. Yeah, you say thank you.
Appreciate
it.
Whatever Chris Pratt said was so out of pocket to say to your brother-in-law. He's like, yeah, no, I didn't avert my eyes. You know what I was looking at. And it was that dude. And I was like, what?
Hey, yo, that's so uncomfortable.
Okay, you ain't got to fess up to it.
Yeah, keep it to yourself.
There are two things when I'm watching it and I see that cross my mind. A, jealousy.
Yes.
And B, I'm just reminded that is just I just don't think God put a lot of time into thinking the design on that.
It ain't cute.
He should have got some Georgia Tech engineers in on it because it just wasn't engineered very well.
He was tired at that point.
What do you want it to look like?
I haven't really put a lot of thought into it. I don't know.
Something that just makes you go, wow. It doesn't do that.
Something a little bit like that just feels like it's one of those, those it's almost like a dartboard where you have the people's parts and you just throw it on to the person. Mm-hmm. That's what a penis looks like to me. It's
like pin the tail on the man.
Yeah, right.
I just feel like he just ran out of ideas at that point.
Here you go.
All right, back to Gen Z being prudes.
Okay. So the data is actually really interesting because according to studies, we are currently living in the most sexless time in media history. A study from film data analyst Stephen Follows focused on the 250 highest grossing movies in America since 2000 and rated them on a scale from none to severe when it came to prevalence of sex or nudity. So like Finding Nemo to Saltburn. But even though the fish in Finding Nemo is really sexy. The rugged Gail is subject.
Maybe when you're seeing it and doing it so much in real life, you don't want to see it on the screen.
So I think it's about the biggest movies of this past year, like Barbie. None of those scenes. Wicked. None of those scenes.
I think it has less to do with movies and more to do with streaming service TV shows. I feel like now because there's less like primetime ABC shows that had to be a little bit cleaner, now all the shows people are binging on are on Hulu or HBO where there's kind of no rules when it comes to what they can show. And so I feel like that because so many people are binging hours and hours and hours of episodes, it just feels like if there's 2 sex scenes in every episode, it feels overwhelming.
It doesn't like bother me or overwhelm me. I guess I just was never a big fan of watching 2 other people enjoy themselves. I don't need to see that.
It doesn't do it for you?
No.
Well, what's really interesting is the scenes that are there now, even though there are less, are way more explicit. Yeah. So it's like no longer any Lion King bedroom eyes where the lions just look at each other kind of sexy. And
You and Disney movies, I don't know what's getting you going with them.
It builds character, so that's how I grew up,
Do you agree with this list?
I think it's bad.
Yeah.
I think it's bad that Gen Z doesn't want anything to be sexier. I think it builds character to see these things on screen.
That's
but also,
true grit right there. Having to watch an entire graphic scene.
Rebecca, if you want to see some more spicy scenes, I can refer you to several websites where you'll see plenty of it.
I appreciate that.
The Bert Show.